What's up, brothers? Welcome back to another welcome back to another meta snapshot from our TBL. This is season 2, week 16. Shout out to Varney for these graphics. I love that he just kind of simplifies everything for me. It makes my life a lot easier. But I did realize here there's a nice little addition. I usually like to go ahead and say, you know, there's 18 players and blah, 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 just to show that there is some level of variety. And I have, I guess, been caught doing terrible math. Simple addition, just terribly, because he went ahead. I'm going to highlight it for you. He went ahead and added a little bullet point to let me know out of how many players, how many decks there were. So shout out to Varney for just making my life super simple. 18 players, 16 decks, 3 rounds. Here's our top 4. We have yet another first place finish by Leppy. He's playing Yellow Hybrid. Locks took second with a Numan deck. Paw Swag took third with Yellow Vaccine. And shout out to Gino. Spoiler alert. Am I allowed to say this? Spoiler alert. The newest member of the DGU family. Shout out to Gino for a 4th place finish with Dark Knightmon. 2nd week in a row, he's top with Dark Knightmon. So let's get right into it, shall we? So all in all, this is pretty much, I want to say 80% of the same list that Gino played last week. I do see the addition of Cranium on here, and I'm not 100% sure if Mega Gargo Ace was in the previous list, but I definitely see a little bit of a reduction in the amount of Dark Knightmon ultimates that he was running. Again, not sure about Ukamon. I feel like Ukamon might have been in the list last week. This might have been a floodgate, whether it was Chikurimon or Chumon. I'm not exactly sure, but shout out to Gino for just kind of going back to the drawing board, making tweaks. You know, that's what these events are for, right? I mean, that's what locals is for. That's what any online circuit is for, that it doesn't have regional implications. You want to test your decks in a competitive environment, and that's good because anybody can test online. Anybody can test against their friends. But testing against other competitors who have a common goal in mind of being successful and trying to win prizing, that's always the best type of testing that you're going to get, because it's 9 times out of 10 it's going to be something that you would see at a regional size tournament, right? So I definitely do respect it, you know, going back to the drawing board and tweaking and making sure everything works right, ratios, whatever it would be, whether there was a certain strategy that didn't work out the first time and you want to iron it out. It's good to go back to the drawing board and give it another week. You know, probably like 3 to 4 weeks with a deck is good, because you learn the ins and outs, you learn the matchups, you learn, you know, what your play lines are, and that's probably a good baseline for anybody who wants to start playing a new deck or a new type of strategy. Give yourself a few weeks to feel it out. You're going to make changes. Everybody's playstyle is different. Net decking is okay for like bare bones, but you want to make it your own. I've always net decked in the past, and sometimes it's gotten me in trouble because I just try to play a carbon copy of what somebody else has posted. And sometimes it's really helped because it gave me a good skeleton, and I just kind of go from there. So shout out to Gino for, you know, staying consistent and keeping the dream alive. Happy 4th place. So here we have our Yellow Vaccine, and this is the Bulkmon. So jamming, security +1. Yeah, solid. I mean, it's nice to have the option of being control and aggro at the same time. And what I mean by that is yellow primarily has been a color of control, whether it's DP reduction or floodgating or just preventing your opponent from playing the game. Yellow has kind of always been that kind of color, but adding aggression to it is nice because it gives you a pivot. You know, sometimes if you're playing a grindier matchup but you want to go ahead and try to speed things along, you have your combo. And on a champion, it's very attainable because there's many ways of interacting with your security, whether it's TK, cards like Emissary of Hope, because this is take out of security, right? When a card is removed from your stack, yeah. So any type of remove from stack. So even though you're recovering, you're still removing a card from stack off TK, and you're still doing that with Emissary of Hope because you're digivolving from your stack, from your security stack, and then replacing it. So that will trigger the Kiaramon, giving this jamming, which is really nice. Patamon also does it. Like if you go turn 1 raising, and then you go Patamon pass, the next turn you promote that Patamon, if he digivolves into a Bulkmon from the security, it reads... That reads as a card being removed from the security stack. So your Bulkmon will now inherently have jamming from the Kiaramon, and then it'll have security +1, because while you have 3 or more security, it gets security. It just gets it as long as you have 3 or more. So that's pretty much the play. I would assume. Or you can emissary. It depends on how you want to do it. You can emissary for 1 and do it, or you can just digivolve for 2. But it's nice to have the option on a champion because it's a low costing play. So yeah, I mean, Venusmon is really good. Seraphimon is really good. I like the one Quantumon tech. This card has a lot of text, and I'm not the best reader, so this is a card I'm going to stay away from in my playing experience. But, you know, I've seen a lot of people talk about the card and what its effects are and what the what's the impact on the game, whether you want to play more of or less of. Is it a bricky card? One-ofs are always kind of techy in my opinion, so I feel like this is just like a tech option. I'd love to see like how this plays out, because it's a one-of. How often are you running into it? Is it just a 13k security bomb at that point? Is this your flex spot in the deck? Just kind of looking at this, I mean, your flex spots are probably Quantumon, probably Rapidmon, probably Zephyrmon. Usually the lower card counts, unless you're forced to play a lower card count, or your flex spots. But can't argue with a 3rd place finish. On to the next one. We have the usual suspect, that is Numan. So yeah, I mean, Numan has kind of been that deck that has kind of just been hanging around, and I think I might get a lot of shit for this, but I think it's time to, and if it hasn't already, time to consider Ukamon being a tier 1 deck. I mean, I know it might be a hot take, it might be a bad take, but when you have a deck whose strategy is to literally answer the meta, yes, technically that's a rogue strategy, but if it's very effective at what it does and can win games consistently, which it has, whether it's TBL or locals or regionals, you have to start considering it as a meta deck, even though the strategy is to counter the meta or to counter the most popular decks. It's still effective at what it does. I mean, the only thing I see here that I would question is the Chimeramon. We've already talked about this at length on the channel before. I'm not a fan of Chimeramon. It is a splashable DNA Digivolution, I get that, but you're giving up 2 bodies to go into 1 body. Now, if you're going to Chimera for a game, totally get it. If you're going to Chimera situationally to benefit you with that DP reduction, totally get it. But giving up 2 bodies for 1 just doesn't seem great. Again, I'd like to see if this was like the flex spot in the deck, or if this actually came up enough for it to be considered as a core piece moving forward. But your top end is disgusting. Death X, Ruin Mode, Zwart Defeat. These are all cards that have very unique interactions. They're very good at what they do, and they answer different situations. It's nice to have that Swiss Army knife up top, because it gives you options to make you feel like you're never locked out of a certain situation. You have control over decks that go wide. You have blanket effects that stop your opponent, time walk them, giving you another turn. You have security effects. It's good. Like, it's nice to have a deck that's low to the ground and you don't have to worry too much about ratios because there's a constant search going on to give you those tech options to answer multiple strategies. And I know Numamon's probably one of Numamon's biggest weaknesses is decks that can rush it down. And those tend to be decks that go wide, and that's why you have the Death X and the Ruin Mode here just to answer low to the ground decks. But I like the Cool Boy. It can grab multiple things. Protoform seems to be becoming a staple in these kinds of decks. We've talked about before how much I love Protoform, especially in these types of decks that don't focus heavily on X Digivolution. It gives you that pseudo recovery. This is really nice. I mean, Venusmon is a crazy card. This card prevents you from playing the game. Cards that say no, you can't are really good. And they always have been. This is crazy. And then Ukamon is a menace. I don't want to talk about Ukamon. But shout out to our second place finisher here. And then, of course, this man needs no introduction. He's slowly becoming a dynasty here. 3 weeks in a row with a first place finish. And 3 different decks, might I add. That's something to look at. But this was listed as yellow hybrid. And I'm seeing more of like yellow-red control. Yes, hybrid. Kazemon, Zephyrmon, Jet Sylvie, totally get it. No Zoes though, like that. Isn't that like? I mean, call me crazy. I know it's been a while since Yellow Hybrid has been like meta defining, but isn't the whole point of playing hybrids because of the Tamers? I might be wrong, but like, would you say it's Blue Hybrid if you're not playing Tommy? Anyway, again, I'm not one to argue with results. First place is first place, no matter how you slice it. But this definitely seems like a really frustrating deck to play against. The Seraphi up top, the Aces, the Gallantmon, the fat Gallantmon that has Rush depending on cards and trash. I mean, this is just a bomb. Whether it's 13k in security or just on play killing something and just saying, I'm going to swing at you for 13k with my huge guy that I just played for a reduced cost is kind of disgusting. I'm seeing a lot of overflow. So we have 3 Magna Ange and 1 Angewomon. And then we have 1 Azulongmon. So if you get this Azulongmon on an ace stack, essentially, this is overflow 7, which is a lot of memory. But you have to look at the situation. If you're controlling your opponent's board, giving them 7 memory for them to have nothing to do with is really not that serious. Because if you think about it, if you're answering their entire board and you're passing 7 memory over to them and they don't have a Digimon to promote out of raising, what are they going to do with that 7 memory other than set up or play options to kill your board? You might have bought yourself for turn if you have something in raising for next turn. So I guess it definitely adds another layer of strategy to the game, which is why I really do appreciate the overflow and the ace mechanic. I was joking around with some of the guys at my locals a couple weeks ago that the addition of ace cards into the game has made me think too much or want to think too much. Actually, I should say not want to think, but need to think too much. Because you kind of have to know where your triggers happen, right? Like if your opponent is baiting you into an ace, whether they just leave a champion on the board or they leave an ultimate on the board that they're going to blast Evo onto, it's something for you to think of. And let's be honest, some of us, present company included, hate thinking. I just want to be mindless, turn my cards sideways and not have to worry about anything. But it's a chess game now more than ever. So I really do appreciate the strategic thought process behind the whole point of the ace mechanic. Again, another Quantumon here. So Meteor Wing. I want to talk about this card real quick because I just reread it again for the first time in a couple days. And this card's actually really, really good. I mean, a 4-cost option, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 15,000 DP or less. And then for each of your opponent's security cards, remove 2,000 from this DP deletion effects max. So basically, if they have a full stack of 5, you're reducing 10k off the deletion, so you're killing a 5k. So at worst, this is a 4-cost option that's going to kill a champion. Okay, but for every security that you check after that first security, this card is going to accrue in value. And what I mean by that is this card gets better over the course of the game, but its printed cost does not change. So if you're at the last security, that's where you're going to get this most value from. If you've checked 4 of your opponent's security and 1 is remaining, that means that whenever you decide to play this for 4, you're killing something that's 13,000 or less. Which that's extreme value because it's essentially a 1-for-1, I'm going to kill your Mega, and it's only going to cost you 4 memory. So if your turn is set up properly, you can kill their Void without passing turn. Cards like this are very they can be very dangerous if they're not like addressed properly. And the fact that this does have the balancing of minus 2,000 DP for each card in security is the way they decided to balance the card, which is fine. But I mean, cards like that are very strong. I mean, think about the bombs right now in the game, like the security bombs. Like I'm thinking off the top of my head, Heaven's Judgment. It costs 7. Yeah, you could neg up to like 24k if your board is built up properly, but you're still passing 7. This only costs a 4. Granted, you can sprinkle that damage around with Heaven's Judgment if they want to go wide, but if you're just killing a tower, you can almost make the argument that for 4 memory, this is more efficient than Heaven's Judgment. Just saying. And then I like Sunrise Buster. I mean, in a perfect world, when you slam your 8th Tamer down on the board, you're negging 24k here. The only problem is it's not sprinkled. It's 1 target. But still, you're getting 2 effects off of 1 card. You're killing something, and you're playing a Tamer. This is just a really solid deck. This just seems like a good stuff deck type of deck, which is nice because we haven't had one of those decks in a while in Digimon. Digimon seems to be more of a game that's like filtered out of archetype and lets you reap the benefits of leaning into an archetype. But a lot of these cards don't have like alternative Digivolution conditions, like except for Geogray. Everything is just kind of a hard Evo. So there's no like I guess Shadow Serafi does have a condition as well. So it's nice to see like just a deck of just good cards, and that's very pilot dependent, matchup dependent, and knowledge dependent. You have to know what you're doing, you have to know who you're doing it to, and you have to make sure that you know what they're going to try to do against you. So, I mean, with that being said, it's a solid top 4. I like the variety of 16 different decks in an 18-man tournament, or 18-person tournament, I should say. And just keep it coming. I really want to see a week of like 20 or like, I don't know, 28 players. Like, I think that would be so cool just to go over maybe more than a top 4 every once in a while. You know, we did a top 5 a couple weeks ago just because it was a tie. But it would be nice to do like a top 8 if we had enough participants. So I challenge you guys, man. Check us out in our Discord. We do the TBLs every Friday night. I believe registration is open. I believe on Wednesday the registration starts to be open, or maybe it might be at the beginning of the week. But the event usually starts at like around 7:15ish Eastern time. Deck lists are required. All that stuff is information in the Discord. But you know, if you're home on a Friday night and you want to play some cardboard and you know, I don't know, if you can't get to a local, I mean, this is what the online community is for, right? If you don't have a community near you and you want to try to establish some type of connectivity over the internet, that's what we're there for, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments down below if you think that there's, I don't know, a way we can get to like 32 players in the TBL. I think that'd be really cool, but I hope you guys enjoy these. I really love making them for you. I really like kind of going into it very raw and not kind of having an analytical breakdown of what every single card does, just kind of more of an open reaction. But let me know if you guys want me to get more detail oriented with some specifics, and you know, we'll adjust it on the fly. With that being said, we're going to get on out of here, and we'll see you guys next week.